Pigskin holiday. Live from the Pig Sty, we are here with Mario Lights Out Spina. Carl No Acceptory. And I'm dead. We have this guy here, Cletus, Scully, and Violet.
Cletus!
And a new mascot who will be named later. So, welcome to the Halloween night edition of Pigskin Holiday, folks. All seriousness aside.
Yeah. we don't have cereal.
We do not talk serious.
We don't know this cereal talk.
We don't have the usual edition of NFL news for the week. We're just going to jump right into some scores and stuff like that and discuss some of the things like booing in Baltimore. A lot of booing in Baltimore this week. That game was interesting. Baltimore at one point was down 24-6 to Arizona. I'm like, what? Didn't expect all that.
Did not.
Did you see that game as it was happening? Did you?
I did not.
I saw the updates on my phone.
Update!
Well, I was watching racing, 2 different games, and I had NFL.com up, and I'm watching the score, and then they do the game breaks. I was like, holy shit. I was instant holy shit moments, you know?
Yeah.
In the end, they pulled it off, though. The final score was 30-27, so the Cardinals were up 24-6, only scored 3 more after that. The Ravens scored 24 unanswered points. Well, I don't know what unanswered, there's a field goal in there.
Yeah.
Whatever, all seriousness aside, that's what we said, right?
Whatever.
Anyway, the fans are booing quite handily in Baltimore because, you know, they don't play that kind of football.
Right.
Now,
They expect more out of them when they go to the game.
yeah. Well, I mean, everybody expects more out of Baltimore.
Yeah.
They are just smash mouth on both sides of the ball all the time.
Yeah.
And then whenever they have that kind of a performance, especially against the Cardinals, who did do much
Right.
all season.
Right.
And that's no except for hardcore fans like that.
It's true.
And Ray Lewis was already pissed because they lost 12-7 to Jacksonville last
Oh
year.
yeah, he
Right.
was very mad, and that is
Yeah.
not no good.
You don't want to piss off Ray Lewis. We said that like in the first week, didn't we?
Right.
I think we've mentioned that in some form or another every week.
Anyway, yesterday's game ended up being 30-27 Ravens.
And they happened to do what we've talked about on this show, which was letting Boldin get most of the receptions, get him downfield, and then let Ray Rice punch it in. And they did that. And we called it.
Another thing that we call on the show, and it happens. Basically, interestingly enough, it was the biggest comeback in Baltimore Ravens history.
Wow.
Their previous comeback was by 19 points back. You know, so this was, you know, an interesting game. So like we were saying, Anquan Boldin would eat up the yardage, move the chains, and Ray Rice would punch it in. I think Rice had 3 touchdowns. He only had 63 yards, but 3 touchdowns. See how it works?
Yeah.
Bolden had, I don't know, 145 yards.
What the hell?
I don't know.
So yeah, it was the Boldin and Rice connection. You ride Boldin down the field, have Rice punch it in. Talk about Rice and Roney.
Yeah.
It's only the first quarter. Wait till the second half. Well, you guys aren't drinking as much, so it won't be as interesting as usual.
Oh yes, it will.
Oh yeah,
I am pissed.
Carl's pissed. All right, let's get into this game a little bit. Okay, at one point, Flacco fumbled the ball. The Arizona Cardinals ended up getting a touchdown off of that. And then the next position, they made Baltimore punt, and it was returned for a touchdown. Then the ensuing position, there was an interception, and they got another touchdown on that drive. So there's the big chunk, 21 points by Arizona against none for Baltimore. That's how the score got so big so
And
quick.
that's like a perfect set for you too.
Yeah.
You could not ask for better.
Offense, defense, and special
That
teams.
was
Right.
great. And then, just like they do.
Well, my first thought was, you recall, what was it, opening week, Baltimore blitz Pittsburgh? Then lost to Tennessee the next week?
Yeah.
You're like, what? What? Kind of like the same.
What?
Like, church!
Jameis.
It's like the Saints this week, which we'll get on more of that later. So to continue with some of the stats, okay? Like we said, Ray Rice had 3 touchdowns, 63 yards. The Ravens won the game with a field goal with 0.2 seconds remaining. And Fitzgerald had only 3 catches.
That's no accept.
He's not having a very good year.
That is not
This really surprises me because they have a decent quarterback. They can get the ball to him.
Or who everybody thought was decent.
But now it's like, who didn't do much.
Exactly.
The entirety of the Arizona Cardinals?
Arizona had 3 touchdowns in 5 minutes in the second quarter, which we just spoke of. In the end, Kevin Kolb only had 153 yards and 1 touchdown. So the score, again, what we always say, the score and the stats don't indicate what happened in the game.
Right.
And this was very indicative of that.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that's indicative.
In dick.
By the way, the Arizona punt return was by a young man by the name of Peterson. 82-yard punt returns. Have you seen the highlight?
No.
Dude, that dude put on a clinic.
Yeah.
She was like, he's just throwing them off.
Just breaking ankles.
Breaking ankles.
Just breaking ankles left and right.
When the play ended, there was like shoulder pads, chin straps, socks.
You know,
Everybody died.
there is nothing better to me than seriously like watching a really, really good, like, I mean, Adrian Peterson, you know, like Chris Johnson, those guys, whenever they're at their best, just making people look fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like DeMarco Murray
I
against
love
the
it.
Rams last week. That
Yeah.
91-yard touchdown. He
Yeah.
did undress the one guy, took his ankles out.
I love it. I love it. Just watching them buckle at the knees and look stupid.
Oh yeah,
you
that's
know?
definitely some of my favorite plays
Yeah.
too.
I would have loved to hear John Madden call that play.
Yeah.
And Pat Summerall, that was good.
Yeah.
Take another swig. Good call, John.
Thanks, John. Anyway, speaking about Boldin, there was one third quarter drive. He had catches of 21, 23, 27, and 8. 80 yards of an 88-yard drive.
Wow.
And guess who punched it in at the end?
Ray Rice.
Me so nice.
Who did a lot?
Yeah.
Who did much? So, you know, the fans booed. They voiced their displeasure. The Ravens came back. They
Answered the call.
Arizona, you're thinking, how did they do this? And then they melted
Right.
like a snow cap on a mountain
Mm-hmm.
in the sunlight.
Like global warming.
Silence.
Like the Al Gore movie.
What's up, Blockman? Any more comments about the Cardinals-Ravens games?
No, I
Game.
mean that.
Ravens, Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean that's stereotypical of the Cardinals this year. I mean, anytime that they do something good, or as you would say, lights out.
Lights out.
They
They
had
do
no
this.
lights out moments this year.
They've had some real good.
They turn the lights out and on the stadium every time they leave.
They had 3 minutes worth of lights out.
Yeah,
moments.
I mean that
and
was
then
great. You couldn't ask for better football
had
for that
50
3 minutes.
and then had
That's
57.
true. That's
shitty.
true.
And they have these flashes of greatness, and then they just flush it right down the crapper.
Okay, another thing that we mentioned on this show previously, we talked about Buffalo and Detroit. Could they handle winning?
Right.
Arizona couldn't handle winning yesterday. They
No.
didn't know how to hold that. Okay, so on to another game. Minnesota and Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I picked Carolina in this game. I underestimated Minnesota. Minnesota, eh?
Hey.
These guys look gelled.
And these.
Ponder's second game. So taking McNabb out did
Yeah.
a world of difference for these
Oh
guys.
yeah, they're like an entirely different football team now.
He came in ready to play. He
Not
came
only
in
that,
ready to
but the
play.
rest of the team is like rallying behind him. They're like,
Excited.
all right,
Yeah.
he's ready to go. Let's do this. And they're doing it.
Yes. Ponder had a quarterback rating of 102.7 yesterday. He was 18 of 28 for 236 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, he's doing better than Gabbert.
Yeah.
Gabbert's had
Yeah.
more games.
True.
You know, Ponder's a quick study apparently,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
good.
Ponder also has a little bit more weapons to work with, though.
But let's mention the way the Panthers lost this game. Well, I wouldn't say lost it. They had a field goal, a chip shot field goal, to tie it up and go to overtime. Olindo Mare
Mm-hmm.
shanked it to the left.
He cut off in the head.
Off with the head. You're loose, you go home. Cam Newton had Cam Newton on the year, by the way, has 8 touchdowns through the air, 7 on the ground. That's 15 of the Panthers' 17 touchdowns he's had a hand in.
Wow. Wow.
He was 22 of 35 for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 6 carries for 53 yards.
Man, that boy is good.
He
That
is.
guy
He
good.
is.
What's this airplane thing he does?
I don't know. I don't get it.
We should find out what that is. Maybe on the screen in a minute you show us what it's all about. All right.
Perhaps.
You know, because I thought that was the Jets thing last year when in the playoffs was the airplane thing.
Well, you would think so.
Steve Smith representing 5'9" of the world,
Yes,
100
sir.
yards. 100
Yep.
yards. And a touchdown. on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about Jared Allen.
Oh, what
The
did he
sack
do?
master.
Sack master.
Doing his thing. Church.
Tell me how many times you got this quarterback. Just tell me.
Yesterday?
Yes.
I forget.
Oh, come on, boy.
3 or 4.
3, 4, 7.
He's had 10 games in a row with a sack. He has 12 and a half on the season.
Wow.
If Mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. How about Adrian Peterson? 86 yards rushing, 76 yards receiving, 162 yards total, 2 touchdowns.
Hey, very nice.
Been nice.
How much?
He's trying to earn that contract too.
Damn right.
So I guess the question here is, you got Carolina, who's been pretty good all year. They've lost some close games. They got a very exciting quarterback, and they got a pretty good team as a whole.
Yeah.
They're going to get better as the season goes on.
True.
Minnesota made some changes. They're coming on. From here, who, if you weigh right now and you go from here out, wins and losses between these two teams, who wins the most?
Well, you would like to think, based on the numbers, that it would be Carolina, but they haven't been getting the W's where they should, which is something else I'm going to touch on a little bit later. But, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Vikings, just because they've got that rejuvenation, they've got that energy now, they've got that drive to do something, and they're doing it.
Yeah.
They look a lot better.
They do.
Different night and
It's
day.
a completely different football team. And it's amazing what a difference one person can make. But whenever that one person is your quarterback, who is your lead, your head guy, your play caller, that makes a big, big difference.
Yeah, it does.
And
That's leadership.
really, I wouldn't mind taking back my last statement that I made that, the Vikings have more weapons, because when you think about it, at tight end, the Vikings have Visante Chianco. On tight end on the other side, they have Greg Olsen, the Panthers do. So those are pretty much evenly matched.
He's lights out.
Yeah, he's lights out. They have D'Angelo Williams, who, a couple years back, was very, very solid. Is not so good this year.
No.
Adrian Peterson, who a couple years back, well, he's always been very solid. And he's actually, getting progressively having better days, so far this season. They're very evenly matched teams. I would probably still have to go with the Vikings, though, just considering that in 2 games, Ponder almost beat the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
And then beats Carolina, who is looking really good. And so far, Cam Newton has had twice as many games than Ponder has, and hasn't won as many. Or, or has won, one.
Let's compare some schedules.
As many.
I mean, do you want to look at it that way, see what the schedule looks like?
Yeah.
Minnesota has Green Bay, Oakland, Atlanta, Denver, Detroit, the Saints, Washington again, Chicago. They could easily split that whole overall package.
Yeah.
You're looking at Green Bay should be a loss. Oakland, you don't know. They got 28-0 against Chiefs last week. They lost, so and they got quarterback situation that should improve here pretty soon. Atlanta's a tough game. Denver, I don't know. Detroit's a tough game. Saints should be a tough game. Wasn't yesterday. Washington, Chicago. So I don't see them making the playoffs. But here's what I want to bring up about the Vikings. You look at Buffalo and Detroit. They started out good, then they kind of backed off a little bit. They both lost 2 games. Detroit smashed that mouth again this week against Tim Tebow and the Broncos.
Right.
Who didn't do much.
Right.
No.
So I would say that you got a team that's getting hot now, and what better time to do it? So you get some momentum going through the season. If you get to 8-8, that's not a bad year.
True.
You have
Not really.
quarterback change and whatnot.
Right.
So I think the Vikings have a good chance to make a good season out of it to build better for next year.
Right.
As far as the Panthers, they have Tennessee, then they have 3 road games in a row: Detroit, Indy, and Tampa. Then home with Atlanta, down to Houston, home with Tampa, and down to New Orleans. So they got a I'd say a little bit of a tougher schedule. They should beat Indianapolis. They should beat Tennessee. I don't know about Detroit. Tampa's a toss-up. Atlanta, that could be a good game, but I'll give the edge to Atlanta. Houston, it's kind of rough.
Yeah.
And they got Tampa twice. So the Panthers better get on a roll quick,
Right.
or their season goes in the wrong direction.
Very true.